Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Hey, wake up, nigga. We behind the veil with Bezale'el. Yeah, we behind the veil with Bezale'el. Reporting news from my father, this the warning bell. To repent and come back to him for he sent that ass to hell. We behind the veil with Bezale'el. Yeah, we behind the veil with Bezale'el. Reporting news from my father, this the warning bell. To repent and come back to him for he sent that ass to hell. Yeah, just look at the destruction. This wouldn't have to happen if we followed his instruction. Hard head and stiff neck, that's how you scrap your people. Blending with the nation, starting to become like the sheep. Both the end times are here, we no longer need to hide. Cause the Elohim of Yasharel about to save his bride. Pestilence, plagues, and every manner of creation. He about to send these heathen on a permanent vacation. Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Hey, wake up, nigga. We behind the veil with Bezale'el. Yeah, we behind the veil with Bezale'el. Reporting news from my father, this the warning bell. To repent and come back to him for he sent that ass to hell. We behind the veil with Bezale'el. Yeah, we behind the veil with Bezale'el. Reporting news from my father, this the warning bell. To repent and come back to him for he sent that ass to hell.
Burn them up, miss. Yo, who on the banner, flying right through Atlanta. Whatever I do, I had to give it up. How did I fall and still give it up? Told her the truth, I had to big it up. All that we do, we have to give it up. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Energy, everything, give it up. Yo, who with the king, I have to give it up. All of this earth, I had to give it up. If it contrary, had to give it up. All of my worry, had to give it up. All of that folly, had to give it up. All of my body, had to give it up. All of my might, I had to give it up. All of my mind, I had to give it up. All of my soul, I had to give it up. Hey, I done had to give it up. 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 2 man in the truck, kind of life I done had to live it up. Came in with these broke pieces, you don't really fix it up. A trillion miles on these brew kicks, and a few I'm about to kick them up. A full tree with some fruit on it, that's a long way from the dust. The people calling me right side, cause I'm always in the cut. I was shouting out your who and I ain't only one that got me out the rut. Started walking them 613, this a different type of strut. Now roll not for everybody, for the faithful ain't no love. Used to live that mixed life, that's equivalent to a mud. Now spirit get fresh down if the dirty door remains shut. A hard head got me burned a couple times and I had to give it up. Until I met the set apart roof, baby, I was all out of trust. You're who I only one I trust. We start a wave like a brush. I'm living still, never rushed. A real boss never rushed. All of my body had to give it up. All of my mind I had to give it up. All of my mind I had to give it up. All of my soul I had to give it up. I done 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 had to give it up.
Spiritually, while we're still alive, we can detach that flesh. We can detach that flesh and kill it, all those desires, and take on the spiritual desires. Fruits of the spirit, it talks about in those are the desires we should take on: the forgiveness, the mercy, the kindness, all those things is what we should take on. Because we still got the malice, the backbiting, all this stuff inside of us, that's flesh. So if Israel only is saying we're Israel according to the flesh, so that's not Israel. That's Jacob. If you're in the flesh, you're Jacob. You're just the sons and daughters of Jacob. Israel is the surname given to him by our mate, by our master. Now that's the spiritual sense of Jacob, because that name is Yashraal, or Prince of the Power. Okay, so it already knew out of his loins would come these 12 sons, and in return we would be the children that receive the land of peace, or the pleasant place, or paradise.
Welcome, family. Gotta give it up. Gotta give it up, baby. Gotta live in the spirit. Give up the flesh. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Veil. I am your humble host, Bezale'el Ben Yahuda. This is episode 12, Uno Dos. Yes, sir. We on number 12. Y'all gave me another week. Yes, sir. We gonna get it in tonight. Today is Wednesday, January the 19th, 2022, quote unquote. It ain't 2022 yet. We all know that. But I just wanted to give up all praises to Yah Elohim and Son Yahushua HaMashiach for giving me a platform to spread my knowledge to the four corners, to all the Israelites worldwide, and to my family in the chat. Big salute. We're going to do a roll call like always. I got to give love to everybody who showed up tonight. Big salute to K. Judah. Big salute to Monster Moshe. Big salute to Oracle 007. Big salute to Akbin. Big salute to Ariel in the chat. Big salute. Who else up in here? Big salute to Sister Nick Yah. All praises, sister. Thank you for showing up. And big salute to Sister Na Maria. Shalom to everybody. I hope you had a blessed and highly favored day. In Yahushua HaMashiach's name. That you had the strength to go out there and resist the temptations of the devil. Because he is always looking to see who he can devour out there. And in these times right now, it's hard. He is coming with a full force, like a tornado. He's trying to gobble up souls like Pac-Man. He's trying to see who he can get to come down to the lake with him for eternity. But we ain't going to be one of those people he gobbles up. Because we are set apart under the refuge of the Most High. We are in our own little pocket of Goshen out here. We will continue to be safe. Even while Yah is pouring out his wrath upon these heathen everywhere. Man, let me tell you right now, it's cold outside. It's cold. I swear it's like every week Yah continues to send these blistering cold. I'm wearing a jacket, fam. I'm wearing a jacket. I'm wearing thermals, and I'm wearing thermal socks, and my feet are still cold. It's like, what? Wind chills like in the negatives outside. I haven't even checked the last time. I think the last time I checked, it was like negative, what, 10? With that wind going on outside, it's cold. Got more rain and snow heading up to the northeast. They finna get more ice out there. Oh, boy. Yah is unrelenting this winter. But all praises to him, I haven't really been hit by nothing, really. We got some snow last time it snowed here, but it's all gone now. We didn't get any snow this time around, but it is cold, but it's all good because y'all has provided me with shelter and heat. I got it cranked up. It felt like Florida in here. For sure. For sure. Oh, it's getting cold down there in Louisiana. I know y'all ain't used to that shit. I know y'all ain't used to that down there. I know. But man, let me go in right quick. At work, man, let me tell you. Let me tell you. See, white folk love to say that black folk, we lazy, right? We lazy people, right? I haven't seen a bunch of lazy people than the white people I see at work. Man, these niggas call off like it ain't nothing. Every day, somebody calling out, or even every week. Or they leaving to go home early because they got quote unquote sick. That's what happened the other day. Dude was totally fine when he came in to work. And then all of a sudden, at lunchtime, he got sick. Dude looked like he was perfect. I would have respected the heathen more if he would have said, you know what, I'm lazy. I don't feel like doing the rest of the work. I would have respected him more if he did that. But he did not. He did not. Weak. These people are weak. I know they used to us being slaves and everything, and them getting to sit back and drink on some lemonade while we do all the work. I know they ain't used to working. They forefathers didn't have to work. They just made other people do the work for them. Now, it's come down to their generation, and they don't want to do nothing. They've inherited their people's laziness, but yet they still want to call us lazy. They want to call us lazy. Bullshit. I work harder than any of them heathen out there. And I don't even put in that much effort. That's the melanin gene, baby. That's the God gene. I don't even put in that much effort. I don't even sweat. I may picking up all these boxes and all that. I don't even put up a sweat. It feels so effortless. You see the other one, they all sweating and they grunting and all this shit. But not me. I'm good. But I gotta endure this bullshit. I hate working. I ain't gonna lie. I hate having to get up. I hate having to get ready. I hate having to go out to the plantation. I hate having to see these people every day. You know, number white people. Oh, wait, they hired one black chick. We have another black chick on the team now. Besides the other black dude I work with, we got another black chick on the team. So they're trying to get more color. They're trying to get more color in the squad. But still, I see nothing but white faces. And the other day, or yesterday, last night at the job, they was like, or the coach or whatever, she was like, she wanted to share some news from another associate. Apparently, this associate's husband is in the ICU, and she said it's not looking good. He got the COVID. On the ventilator. They say it ain't looking good. He got blood clot in the lungs. I wanted to be like, is he fully vaxxed? I wanted to do that. But I wasn't going to be, I ain't want to kick them while they nah. So I was silently smirking under my mask. Because I'm just sitting here like, tisk, tisk, tisk. So much faith in man, but you ain't got no faith in the creator. Now you on your deathbed. Pretty much. And you did everything right. You took your booster, you took all this stuff, and you still about to die. You still on the verge of dying. So the associate has some words that the coach gave out. She's like,
You know, we have to do everything that we can to prevent the spread, to keep your mask up. And I wanted to say the mask don't do shit. The jab don't do nothing. Your booster don't do nothing. Look at all the people who got it, who got the jab. They're not here with us no more. A lot of them ain't here with us no more. Especially in our region, a lot of them have passed away, even after they got all they required shots. It doesn't matter. If the Most High is going to kill you, he is going to kill you. Doesn't matter what you do. You can take 20 jabs. You can have on 18 masks at the same time. It don't matter. There is no safe. I hate that word, safe. I really hate that word. It's one of the worst words in the English language because there is no safe. Oh, you got to put on your seatbelt so you can be safe. Oh, you got to do this so you can be safe. Wear your helmet so you can be safe. There ain't no safe. I've seen people who wore a helmet and they still got fucking brain damage. There is no safe. The only safe is in the refuge of the Most High. That's it. He's the only one that can save you from going through any turmoil in your life. It doesn't matter. I've seen so many people do the quote unquote right things, and yet they are still struggling, or they're going through what they're going through right now. When she was announcing all this stuff, man, I'm just shaking my head. And I just want to scream out, there ain't no safe. But, you know, these heathen won't know what the hell I was talking about anyway. They probably don't believe in y'all. Because most of them are all jabbed. But yet, the funny thing is, a lot of them was out with COVID. All of them jabbed. But some of them was still out with it. Ain't that something? Wow, wow, wow. I tell you, man. I tell you, there is no safe. They're trying to get more color because they need more color to do the work while they sit. Of course. Because they know black folk, we work. So they get to slack up a bit. If they want to call it that. Still, the heathen outnumber us there. And still, a lot of them are very lazy. I mean, I be on my phone. I be listening to podcasts and everything like that on YouTube. I can do all that and I can still get my work done. These people got to like literally, they can't multitask. They literally are just stopping and they're just literally looking at their phone without working. And I'm like, y'all can't multitask, motherfuckers? Man, what's up with them? I don't understand. I don't understand. But straight up, today is a part 2 into what we was doing last week, going over the history. And let me tell you, we learned some good shit. Most High put in some knowledge, some stuff I didn't even know about. And now, we're going to go in. We're going to go in on part 2, where we left off, which was Central Asia and what they were doing there. Crazy stuff. So without further ado, let's get it. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen right quick. But how y'all doing tonight, fam? How are y'all doing tonight? Are y'all good out there? Y'all ready to get some knowledge? As K. Judah would say. Wow. All right. Give me a 1 if y'all can see the screen. Give me a 1 if y'all can see the screen. I think it should be good. Yeah, they can't multitask. They can't multitask. All right, Doc Ben. All right, let's get it. Okie dokie. All right, cool. You know what? I am going to throw on some background music too. I think the background music helps. I like it. Helps with the ambiance, in my opinion. There we go. Okay, so we starting off in Central Asia. That's where we left off. So let's get it. All right. So it says here, though, most of the Dravidian albinos left Central Asia for Europe from ancient times due to the Mongol pressure. Now, we all know what the Mongols were from last week, and or desire from better lands. Some of the Dravidian albinos, these are the white folks here, remained in Central Asia. Their descendants are clearly visible there today. Now it says here, we do understand that the average person, after a lifetime of the albino life, that they, the albinos, are native to the black man's ancient home of Europe. Finds this material hard to believe. Yes, most people will find this hard to believe. I remember trying to talk to people about where white people came from long ago when I started doing this. They couldn't believe it. A lot of people still think white people came before black folks. I don't get where they get that from. But it is what it is. It says today Central Asians are extensively mixed race with both white and East Asian blood. And the white element is older since the whites were there first and are the indigenous people of Central Asia. So here we got a Kazakhstan woman and a Turkmenistan woman. Clearly white, from what you can see. So these are the people that were indigenous to the Central Asian lands. That's where they were, in my opinion. More Kazakhstan children here. Well, apparently here, says the albinos have finally admitted to where they're from. Says here, recent genetic studies, I'm just going to try to go straight to that underlying part, have concluded that humans arrived in the region. This is Central Asia here. In the region 40,000 to 50,000 years ago. Yeah, we all know 50,000. Earth's not that old. Making the region one of the oldest known sites of human habitation. The archaeological evidence of population in this region is sparse, whereas evidence of human habitation in Africa and Australia prior to that of Central Asia is well known. Some studies have also identified this region as a likeliest source of the populations who later inhabited Europe. So they finally saying the white people. Instead of saying they were made first, now they finally say, this is back in 2014 apparently. They finally admitted this. I find it hilarious to me. But it is what it is. So it says, if you Google where the white people come from, the second result that you will get is this Live Science article. So why did people become white? It says here, vitamin D plays an important role in bone growth and the body's natural protection against certain diseases. In the inability to absorb enough in areas of less powerful sunlight would have increased life expectancies in our African ancestors. The further north they trekked, the more vitamin D they needed, and the lighter they got over the generations due to natural sunlight. You see that bullshit lie? That is the lie that they say. That's the lie that they perpetrate today. People saying, oh, they got lighter the more they went up north. That is an absolute farce. Look at me. I've been in cold climates. I'm still the same dark motherfucker I was when I was born. I didn't get lighter. In fact, I have gotten darker, I believe, than when I used to be growing up. And now, when I was in Miami, that was when I was in the heat. I've been in cold climates in Chicago, in the Northeast, in Connecticut. Now I'm in another cold environment in Missouri, and I am still the same dark person that I am. So we all know that bullshit vitamin D that they say is that what caused everybody to become light as they went north. That's an absolute farce. It says here also, while people of all skin types have the ability to produce the same amount of vitamin D in their systems, highly pigmented black people will need to stay in the sun around 6 times longer than light people in order to synthesize the same amount of vitamin D. Bullshit. 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 They've been perpetrating this lie for a long time too. Saying, oh, black folk, we don't get as much vitamin D from the sun. We got to stay longer. Get the fuck out of here. We absorb more vitamin D than any race on the planet. So that whole gotta stay around 6 times longer in the sun than light people, get out of here. That is a lie perpetrated to make black people seem inferior to the white person. But we all know that is just their weakness talking. We all know that is just their weakness and their inferiority projecting onto colored folk. So fuck them. Yes, if we go to Canada, we will still be black. For sure, Og Ben. So much lies. Says here, in the lack of vitamin, something occurring among American children right now, partly because they don't get out much, can make humans more susceptible to everything from heart disease and internal cancers. Bullshit. That is, of course, pure lie. In the last century, case of rickets, often caused by lack of vitamin D, was epidemic in Europe and North America. So much so that they had to start adding vitamin D in the manufacture of their milk, cereals, cheeses, and such. This was to the white folks. This was not done for blacks who don't need it. It was done for albino people, yes, who desperately needed it. So they're the ones who cannot absorb vitamin D from the sun. They have the hard time absorbing vitamin D in the sun, which is why they have to eat vitamins and all this other shit, which is why they had to put vitamin D in food, because white people could not absorb the vitamin D as much as we can. Simple science. Simple science. And yet they perpetuate this lie for centuries. The reason for such ridiculous statements and lies is this. If Africans went into Europe circa 45,000 BC and stayed black, then modern Europeans must have always been white, albinos. Simple. 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 But they haven't always been white. So there we go. They came from us. They came from us. So more debunking of the vitamin D absorption here. Said vitamin D production after UVB exposure depends on baseline vitamin D and total cholesterol, but not on skin pigmentation, as the white people would love for you to know. It says down here, in addition, we paired a dark skin group with a fair skin group according to baseline vitamin D levels and found no differences in the vitamin D increase after identical UVB exposure. So it's a lie. It is a lie. It's always been a lie. We can go out in the sun for maybe about 20, 30 minutes and we get our whole daily dose of vitamin D. White people are the ones who got to stay out there for longer, but they risk getting sunburned. So they have to eat vitamins and they have to get vitamin D in their food. They got to get supplements. We don't need to. We go out in the sun for 30 minutes and we good. They, on the other hand, can't do that. So they have to get it the other way. Exactly. They can't stay in the sun for 10 minutes. It makes no sense. Since the beginning of our captivity, we used to do everything for these heathens, cook their food, wash master clothes, and nowadays most have a maid because they don't know how to do shit unless we teach them. Absolute facts, Aria. Absolute facts. Whew. Says here, however, just as one group of albino people had decided to admit that they came from Central Asia and had always been white, and thus derived from the Dravidian albinos that we knew from last week, were the Indians, the black Indians that was there, or the San tribe from Africa. Other groups were pressing ahead with new lies to buttress European claims of being black Africans who turned white because of vitamin D deficiency. But these new claims have a twist. One was supposed to keep up with the times. Says here in the Daily Mail UK headline, says light skin and Europeans stem from one 10,000-year-old ancestor who lived between India and Middle East, claims the study. And the reason for these nonsensical proclamations is this, summed up by Life Science. An ancient European hunter-gatherer had dark skin, this is their lie, and blue eyes. A new genetic analysis has revealed. The analysis of the man who lived in modern-day Spain only about 7,000 years ago shows light-skinned genes in European evolved much more recently than previous thought. So this is what they say, what the man looks like back then. Funny. It says here, ancient Europe was a melting pot with a jumbled ancestry. It said newly released genomes from around a dozen early inhabitants of Europe suggested that the continent was once a melting pot in which brown-eyed farmers encountered blue-eyed hunter-gatherers. It says here, hunter-gatherers, some of them blue-eyed, who came from Africa more than 40,000 years ago. God damn it, these times. Middle Eastern farmers who migrated west much more recently. A mysterious population whose range may have spanned northern Europe and Siberia. It says these three groups were identified from the genomes of 8,000-year-old hunter-gatherers, one man from Luxembourg, and 7 individuals from Sweden, as well as a genome of a 7,500-year-old woman from Germany. The study was led by the University of Tübingen in Germany. The research suggests that the individuals from Luxembourg and Spain probably had dark skin and blue eyes. And we've seen that, hey, black folk, we can have dark skin and blue eyes. Showed you that last week. We have the best diversity of any race on the planet. We can have blonde hair, brown hair, black hair. We can have it all. It says here, however, none of them had the ability to digest the sugar lactose found in milk. The trait originally emerged in the Middle East after domestication of cattle and later spread to Europe. It's kind of weird because I never could do lactose. I'm lactose intolerant. I don't know if that has something to do with that. But this is what they look like. See, look at this. Hunter-gatherers, some of them blue-eyed who came from Africa more than 40,000 years ago. They would have looked like this. Plain proof right here. Look at the blue eyes. Dark hair, dark skin, blue eyes. Damn, those are some nice eyes, man. I tell you. God damn. Exotic. That's what they look like. That's where they came from. This person here. They didn't come from always white. They were never always white. They came from us. They came from us. Simple facts. Say here, Middle Eastern farmers who migrated west much more recently, they would have looked like this. Black people. Black people here on these walls. A Libyan, a Canaanite, a Syrian, and a Nubian bow to Pharaoh. All black. A mysterious population whose range may have spanned northern Europe and Siberia. We have no idea who that could be unless they're talking about modern Europeans after they had migrated from Central Asia. Now we're going to get into some actual white history. See, ever since their ascension to power in Europe, some 200 years ago, see, very recent, they think they've been in power for all this time. The European albinos have dedicated all their time and energies toward substantiating their bogus European and African history with falsified artifacts and vicarious texts rather than collecting data and artifacts from their own actual Asian history. This behavior is new and strange, and so cannot be understood by the non-albino mind. For though in times past it was common for rulers who came from humble beginnings and had usurped power to manufacture a grandiose past for themselves. And that is what the white people have done. They know, they've seen all these artifacts. Hell, most of them are in the catacombs under the Vatican. They've seen all our books. They've seen all the previous civilizations, archaeological finds, and all of them had to do with black. It's the reason why they shot off the Sphinx's noses of all these different structures that had a black face on it, because that would tie it to black people. Now, of course, most of these civilizations weren't ours. These were Canaanite civilizations and whatnot, but still, it still came from black people. So the whole Psalm 83 thing, that happened with our history, and it happened with black history in general. Because in order for them to sit on the superior side, they have to make everybody else look inferior. So they hide history, whitewash everything, only give you certain facts, and hide everything else. That's why you don't learn shit in black history. Because they actually taught you black history. They'll tell you, hey, that black folks ruled everything before white people came along. But they ain't going to give you that, because that will give you a sense of power. They got to keep us feeling inferior in this wicked-ass country, my fellow Israelites. They cannot let us get big. So it makes sense that they have to hide everything in order to make themselves seem powerful. Correct, Akben. And yes, Ak Ariel, those were some dangerous looking eyes. Scared me when I saw them. But this is what they do. It says here, it is unheard of for an entire race to do it, or rather try. So the white people, these are the first people to have whitewashed an entire history away. An entire history away. These are the people to do it. Bible says so. It says here, thus articles like the following on the Yehuzi is likely filled with error, but because of the albinos' neglect of their own true history, it is a state of knowledge at this time. So the Hephthalites, don't know who they are. These are people. It says here, after crossing Hindu Kush mountain range and entering Central Asia, the Dravidian albinos then spread eastward. The most eastern albino tribe that we yet know of is the Hoa or Hoandun, known in the West as Hephthalites, White Huns, or Hunas. So these are the Chinese. Or like the, I guess you want to call it, the ones from, what's his face? What's his name? Genghis Khan? Maybe comes from these people, the White Huns. Encyclopedia Britannica says this about them. Hephalatite, or also Ephalatite, member of a people important in the history of India and Persia during the 5th and 6th centuries AD. According to Chinese chronicles, they were originally a tribe living to the north of the Great Wall and were known as Hoa or Hoandun. Elsewhere, they were called White Huns or Hunas. They had no cities or system of writing, lived in felt tents, and practiced polyandry. You see, these people, they didn't live civilized lives. They lived in fucking tents and shit. They had no cities, no writing, no nothing. Lived in felt tents and practiced polyandry. I have no idea what that, what that word means. Sorry about my cough, man. I got like a nagging cough. It's very annoying. I'm going to see what this word means. Says here, polyandry, polygamy, in which a woman has more than one husband. There you go. So this is the woman has more than one husband. Huh. So it's like almost like the backwards part of polyandry or polygamy. In the 5th and 6th centuries, the Hephthalites repeatedly invaded Persia and India. In the mid-6th century, under the attack of the Turks, they ceased to exist as a separate people and were probably absorbed into the surrounding nation. Whoa, what picture were you looking at, Monster? Yes, it is all good. We are taking our ancestors' heritage and I'm bringing it out. This is the year of truth. We're uncovering the lies and we're putting in the truth. That is what we're doing today. That's what I'm doing. That's my mission this year. To uncover the lies and spread the truth to my people that is awakened across the world. So under the attack of the Turks, they ceased to exist as a separate people and were probably absorbed into the surrounding population. These are under the Turks. Nothing is known of their language. It must be noted that the Hefletites were no relation to the Black Huns. They merely called themselves Huns in order to terrify their enemies. So we see the Huns, the Black Huns, actually had a reputation. So they called themselves Huns to take off for their reputation of the black people. And see, they did some shit. You see how they like a parasite, they hook onto us to try to seem powerful. But they had no power, obviously, because they kept getting defeated. And then they got defeated by the Turks. Completely done. It says here the Yahuzi or the Ruazi were another ancient Central Asian people. They are believed by most scholars to have been an Indo-European people. It may have been the same or as closely related to the Tarkarians or of classical sources. This is disputed. They were originally settled in the arid grasslands of the eastern Tarim Basin area in what is today Xinjiang in western Gansu in China, before they migrated to Transoxiana, Bactria in the northern southern Asia, where they may have had a part in forming the Kushan Empire. The Kushan Empire. You can get some information on them. The Kushan Empire was a syncretic empire formed by the Yahuzi in the Bactrian territories in the early 1st century. It spread to encompass much of modern-day territory of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nepal and northern India, at least as far as Saketa and Sarnath near Varanasi, where inscriptions have been found dating to the era of the Kushan Empire. Established in, was that 30? Is that 30 AD? So there are numerous theories about the derivation of the name Yahuzi, and none has yet found general acceptance. According to Zhang Guanda, the name Yahuzi is a transliteration of their own name for themselves, the Visha, which means the tribes, being called the Vijaya in Tibetan. So these were the white folks came from. These people, before they migrated into Western Europe. Now the origins, the first known references to the Yahuzi are contained in the Yahushu Guanzi essays and tell of King Mu, son of heaven. The dates of the most common version of this book are disputed, however, and it may date as late as the 1st century BC. The book described the Yahuzi or Nihuzu as a people from the northwest who supplied jade to the Chinese. The supply of jade from the Tarim Basin from ancient times is indeed well documented archaeologically. It is well known that the ancient Chinese rulers had a strong attachment to jade. All of the jade items excavated from the tomb of Fuhao of the Shang dynasty, more than 750 pieces, were from Khotan in modern Xinjiang. The suffix D or G was generally used to describe the D people called the Western barbarians. So this is what they look like. Light skin, blue eye. Which came from the Dravidian albinos. This is in the middle before they became the white people. They came out of the Dravidian albinos, moved here into Central Asia, then they moved out west towards Europe. So we're seeing quote-unquote evolution of the white man. This is all here. But this is the history they don't want to tell you. That they came from Asia. Asians. They're Asians, basically. That's where they came from. So according to the former USSR scholar Zuev, there was a queen among the large Uhazi Confederation who added to her possessions the lands of the Tokar. on the headwaters of the Wang. According to Zuev, the Chinese chronicles began referring to the Queen's tribe as the Great Yehuzi and to the Tokars of the Lesser Yehuzi. Together, they were simply called Yehuzi. I'm guessing that's how they pronounce it. I have no idea. I'm just doing it the best I can. In the 5th century, exactly, Ariel, exactly. So the Yehuzi are also documented in detail in Chinese historical accounts. Says here the Yehuzi originally lived in the area between Kilian and or the Heavenly Mountains and Duwang. But after they were defeated by the Xiongnu, they moved far away to the west, beyond Dayuan, where they attacked and conquered the people of Daxia and set up the court of their king on the northern bank of the Gui. A small number of their people who were unable to make the journey west sought refuge among the Qiang barbarians. So the Kiliang and Duwang, original homeland of the Huzi, has recently been argued not to refer to the current locations in Gansu, but to the Tian Shan range. And this is one of their coins here with a Greek royal headband. This was 120 BC. You see, this is where the Greeks, right there, with the Greek royal right there. Boom. So the ancient Chinese sources do describe the existence of white people with long hair, the Bai people of the Shanghan Jiang, beyond the northwestern border. Very well preserved Terra mummies with Caucasian features today displayed at the Urumqi Museum and dated to the 3rd century BC were found at the ancient oasis on the Silk Road, Nia. It should be noted that through the attribution of reddish can be because of ball chemicals, embalming chemicals, or the use of henna to color the hair. For example, even African mummies also have so-called reddish hair, but are clearly not white or European. But the reddish or blonde hair of these mummies must be natural, as no chemicals were present in Tarim graves. Additionally, genetic testing and skull examples have shown conclusively that Caucasian genetic material is present in this area. That's where their roots are, right here. You can't get around red and blonde hair with no chemicals. So these were the white folks. It says blonde hair among the Tocharian mummies is also common. This is according to the one theory. The Yehuzi were probably part of the large migration of Indo-European speaking peoples who were settled in Central Asia at the time. The nomadic people of the Ordos culture who lived in northern China, east of the Yehuzi, are another example. Also, the Caucasian mummies of Pazriyik, which were probably Scythian in origin, were found around 1,500 kilometers northwest of the Yehuzi and to date around 3rd century. So the Yehuzi Exodus, this is when they left. The Yehuzi sometimes practiced the exchange of hostages with the Xiongnu, and at one time were host to Modu Shanyu, son of the Xiongnu leader. Modu stole a horse and escaped when the Yehuzi tried to kill him in retaliation for an attack by his father. Shortly before 174 BC, led by one of Modu's tribal chiefs, the Xiongnu invaded Yehuzi territory in the Gansu region and achieved a crushing victory. Modu boasted in the letter, 174 BC, to the Han Emperor that due to the excellence of his fighting men and the strength of the horses, he had succeeded in wiping out the Yehuzi, slaughtering or forcing to submission every member of the tribe. The son of Modu, Lao Shang Kanyu, subsequently killed the king of the Yehuzi and in accordance with nomadic traditions, made a drinking cup out of his skull. Some wicked shit right there. Following Chinese sources, a large part of the Yehuzi people therefore fell under the domination of the Xiongnu, and there have been ancestors of the Tocharian speakers attested in the 6th century AD. So here, a very small group of Yehuzi fled south to the territory of the Proto-Tibetan Jian and came to be known as to the Chinese as the Small Yehuzi. Yep, transformation of the European may count the sound. Right. Either way, they some dogs off the floor. I agree, Ariel. So these are their artifacts here. These are the artifacts. After 155 BC, the Wusan, in alliance with Xiongnu and out of revenge from an early conflict, managed to dislodge the Yahuzi, forcing them to move south. The Yahuzi crossed the neighboring urban civilizations of the Dayuan and Fergana and settled on the northern bank of the Oxus in the region of Transoxiana in modern-day Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. That's right under Russia. Just north of the Hellenistic Greco-Bactrian kingdom. The Greek city of Alexandria on the Oxus was apparently burnt to the ground by the Yahuzi around 145 BC. So the Chinese Emperor Wu Dihan sent a Chinese mission to the Yahuzi led by Jiang Xian in 126 BC. They were seeking an offensive alliance with the Yahuzi to counter the Xiongnu threat to the north, although the request for an alliance was denied by the son of the slain Yahuzi king, who preferred to maintain peace in Transoxania rather than seek revenge. Zhang Jian made a detailed account reported in the Shiji that gives considerable insight into the situation in Central Asia at that time. So these people look pretty dark here. So he's the greatest emperor of the Han Dynasty. These some dark looking people here. At least from this painting. They're worshiping Buddha, of course. Not our people. So Zhang Jian, who spent a year with the Yuhezi in Bactria, relates that the great Yahuzi lived 2,000 or 3,000 li west of Dayuan, north of the Gui River. They are bordered on the south by Daxia, on the west, and on the north. They are a nation of nomads moving from place to place with their herds, and their customs are like those of the Xiongnu. This is basically going through all of this. Do I really want to read all of this? I do not know. Don't know. I'm trying to get into the meat. This looks like there's a bunch of what's the names here. In India, a badly sunburned child here, albino child in Hyderabad, India. See, they're dark. And that one's the albino. Man. Woo. That is one funny looking kid. Woo. Vagabonds indeed. Vagabond. That is the kids there, boy, I tell you. And the fall of Kushan, and then the albinos. Now we're going to get into the good part here. The albinos in Central Asia. So it says in Central Asia, the albinos found a climate which is temperate and semi-arid to semi-humid. Warm to hot season, often with a cold to freezing season in winter. Soil was fertile with rich nutrients and minerals. Plants, grass, trees, or shrubs in savanna and shrubland. Large grazing mammals and birds were the animals of the region. But most importantly, they found the horse, which they undoubtedly at first hunted, but then learned to domesticate. So located in the southwestern Siberia, the Altai region of Russia, boasts incredible environmental riches, rolling foothills and grasslands, blue lakes and rivers, and dramatic alpine landscapes that are home to numerous threatened and endangered species. Local residents, especially the native peoples indigenous to the area, rely on Altai's rich agricultural lands for survival. Raising livestock, farming, growing homeopathic herbs, and gathering other non-agricultural forest products. So often called the cradle of Mongolian and Turkish civilizations, Altai is home to ancient rock art or petroglyphs. These sites and artifacts are considered sacred to local indigenous peoples and have important historical scientific value. Blah. These are mainly going more into more of the area, I guess. Interesting stuff. These are their plaques. I don't know why they hide this history, but they want to take over ours. I don't get that part. They had some, I guess, nice history. So here above, we alluded to albino and Mongol admixture. Further proof of white and black Mongol admixture is demonstrated with the Terra mummies, which are a series of mummies dating from 1800 BC, discovered in the Tarim Basin in present-day Jiangxing, China, which is on the border with Central Asia and Northwest China. The oldest mummies are white people, but later at about 1100 BC, they become mixed race. So the mummies. And to be honest, a lot of this is very historical stuff. And it looks pretty boring to me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. This looks pretty boring to me. So these are the mummies. Mixed race mummies here. Oh. So it's here. We here have been for many years asserted and offer copious proof that European white people are really just the albinos of Indian Dravidians, mostly in Africans. Now we offer just more of the same. Oh man, I don't want to get too crazy here. The DNA, more DNA stuff here. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of this is pretty heavy scientific stuff. These are the modern Uyghur people here. White people, basically. Some with Asian features. Oh, there we go. So, like I said, most of these people, they all come from the Dravidian albinos who moved into Asia, and then they moved up into Russia, and they moved out into Western Europe. The Nuristani people, there's another Dravidian albino people who stayed in Asia, as all others migrated west into Europe. They're white people, basically. White people. All white people. It says here, albinos often say, and those that don't say it think it, if blacks could have created all of those great original civilizations all over the world and had been the most advanced human on Earth, then why are Africans so backwards? Just here recalling David Attenborough famously saying as he introduced a documentary on ancient Egypt, many find it hard to believe that the mumbling, superstitious people to the south could have built such a great civilization. Says, well, Africans are backwards for the very same reasons that the Uyghurs and the Nuristani and all other tribal European type albinos who stayed in their original homelands in Asia are backwards. The environmental stresses and new points of view and new methods and other things that spur advancement and development are absent from the lives and environment, and perhaps most importantly, they do not need to change in order to survive. Huh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Return of the albinos. Says here, no one knows why the first albinos left Central Asia. Perhaps this was some natural disaster, or perhaps they had overpopulated the sparse land and now found it difficult to acquire enough food there. So here, perhaps they rightly thought themselves powerful and were bent on conquest. I believe that one was true. Savage people. Passages in the Rig Veda suggest that it also portrays a deep dislike for blacks. But then again, it was written some 600 years ago after the initial invasion, so intervening events may have contributed to that. Like the Hellenes in Greece, it took the Aryans many hundreds of years to master written language. See, white people, we taught them how to read and write. But no one can help but wonder if their hatred for blacks was the result of ancient memories of past abuse, somehow kept alive for thousands of years, through stories and song. Or perhaps they were simply preyed upon by their black neighbors in Northern Asia. This will certainly be the reason for later albino movements out of Asia. Whatever the initial cause or reason, within 2,000 years, all the millions of albino Caucasian people would abandon Central Asia and move to India and Europe, later Turkey and the Middle East. Today, the Uyghurs, a Turkish ethnic group who live primarily in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in the People's Republic of China, are the only Caucasians still living in Eastern and Central Asia. Many are actually now mixed race. It is not known why the Aryans would hazard a return to lands that they originally found inhospitable because of the intense sunshine. Perhaps over the tens of thousands of years that they spent in Central Asia, they were able to acquire. Oh, you guys are buffering? Uh-oh. I don't think but it's not buffering on my end, I don't believe. It says here, they were able to acquire a fixed degree of melanation through crossbreeding with the blacks in China. But they say China's Asian. Ho, ho, ho. No. And Eastern European who surrounded them. Unlike their normally pigmented brethren who stayed behind in India, they had not evolved into a civilized people. They had not developed a written language, technology, or cities. See, they have nothing. They were not civilized. Still not civilized either. I mean, look how they run this country. Very uncivilized people. I still don't know how they run this country, man. This is insane. They returned to India as an illiterate, pastoral people now called Aryans. They migrated from the steppe lands of Central Asia through what is now Afghanistan, down through the Khyber Pass, and onto the now sparsely populated Indus Plain. The Aryans' invasion of India and the subsequent crossbreeding between the Aryan albinos, and normal Dravidians resulted in the ethnic group that we now call Hindus. So these are your normal people. These are your normal Indians right now. That's why they got the straight hair. This is what they look like. North Indian woman, South Indian. So the North Indian are the lighter ones. That's where a lot of the crossbreeding took place. And the Southern Indians are darker with the straight hair. So, of course, when they went to the northern part, they did all the crossbreeding up there. North Indian man versus South Indian man. North Indian woman versus South Indian woman. You see the difference? This is basically just the exact same thing that you got with the Hispanics right now, the Spanish people. You have white Hispanics and you got the black, the Afro-Hispanics. But the Afro-Hispanics, those are the ones that don't get recognized. Some of them are not even considered a population on the census. They go through the same thing that we Negroes go through right here in America. Because they want to white us out. They still can't white us out because they can't destroy us as a people because Yah will not allow that. But these are all you see. You don't see the Afro-Hispanics. When you see all these, I guess, tourism stuff, they always show the white ones. They never go into the villages of the Afro-Hispanics. They never do. They all stay in one area where the white people at. But they call themselves the indigenous, but they are not the indigenous. The black people are the indigenous. Black has always been indigenous. Hell, we were the indigenous to the earth. We were here first. Since they're about the same time that the Aryans went south into India, another group comprised of the people we call the Greeks and Latins, Romans, headed west into Europe circa 20 or 1200 BC. There they also crossbred with the local blacks, the original Europeans, and also produced a mulatto ethnicity. That's where you get your Italians. Italy was black. That's where you get your Spaniards. Because Spaniards were black. How the Moors were there before the Europeans came in there. That's where you get the Spanish people. Right there. They mixed with the black people. That's how you get it. That's how you get your mixed race people. The Greeks and the Romans went over there and they mixed. They mingled the seed with all the black people that were originally in Europe. So now everybody thinks, oh, all the Romans are black. Are white now, because that's all they see is white. But there are still black Romans there. They just don't show them. Same thing in Spain. There's still black Afro-Spanish people over there. Same thing in France. Same thing all over Europe. They still have a black population, but they are not represented anywhere. They're underrepresented. In order to show off their superiority over the black race, they have to hide the black people. They do it here too. We're 12% of the population. They say. I have no idea. I haven't counted every black person. Who the heck knows what our true percentage rank is in this country? They say we've been 12 and 13% for a long time. I have no idea what it is, if it's higher than that or not. But we do know worldwide that the white people are the minority. We learned that last week. They only make up about 10%. But everywhere you look, TV, sports, movies, commercial, all you see, white people. The news, all you see is white people. They have to make themselves look like the majority. So everywhere you look is white people. So psychologically, that would make you think, man, white people run the world. They're all over the world, but they're not. Colored folk make up 80%, 90% of the people on this planet. Close to. But the white people will have you believe that they make up 90% of the planet. And we only make up the minority, which is false. Crazy. See, the National Geographic Genographic Project is an ambitious attempt to answer fundamental questions about where we originated and how we came to populate the Earth. Well, we all know how we populated the Earth. The Genographic Project is a multi-year research initiative led by National Geographic Explorer in Residence, Dr. Spencer Wells. Dr. Wells and a team of renowned international scientists are using cutting-edge genetic and computational technologies to analyze historical patterns in DNA from participants around the world to better understand our human genetic roots. So we all know where we come from. We all know. So these are statues of a Greek charioteer and an Etruscan statue of Apollo. That dude looks. They got curly hair there. It says that these first albino people who entered Europe as illiterate, illiterate horse nomads were, of course, not Hellenes. That is part of the albino's fantasy history. The Hellenic race has never, since its origin, changed its speech. This at least seems evident to me. This is in the first book of Cleo Herodotus. This is what he has to say about the Greeks. It was a branch of the Pelasgic, which separated from the main body, and at first was scanty in numbers and of little power, but it gradually spread and increased to a multitude of nations, chiefly by the voluntary entrance into its ranks of numerous tribes of barbarians. The lineage of ancient Greeks is always a source of controversy. In the histories of Herodotus, he clearly identifies the lineage of each major Greek tribe. These books are considered one of the most seminal works of history in Western literature, written from the 450s to 420s BC in the Ionic dialect of classical Greek. Here we have excerpted quotes from Herodotus' histories to clearly ethnically define each tribe of the Greeks. I'm not going to that. But Says here the earliest Black European writings that we know about is a linear A script, which first appeared in Crete. After the whites invaded, circa 2000 BC, 1200 BC, all writing stopped. This period is commonly called the Greek Dark Ages. It was obviously a time of great wars and social upheaval, the biggest upheaval being the exodus of the Sea People. When writing reappeared at about 750 BC, Greeks had adopted an alphabet that came from a Phoenician script. Phoenicia was the name for the letters. The Greeks modified some of the letters for the vowels. There were many local alphabets, but in 403 BC, Athens adopted the Ionic or Milesian alphabet, which eventually became common in all of Greece and is still used today. But we all know the Phoenician alphabet. The Phoenicians were Black people. So they adopted an alphabet that came from Phoenician script. See, they can't make up their own stuff. They got to copy our shit. It seems like the lies of whites are never ending. Homer's Iliad is dated to 800 BC, which of course is fantasy. But much more importantly, the Iliad and the Oresteia trilogy read like modern works, but they are not primitive in style. When compared to Herodotus' histories, which are newer, circa 440 BC, but is primitive in style, it becomes clear that we are dealing with just another white man's lie, the point of which is still unclear. Note some translations of ancient works by degenerate lying whites attribute blonde hair and blue eyes to Greek gods and demigods. That is, of course, false. Modern Greek sculpture, these are fakes created mostly in the last 200 years. Bring it out. Just making the point that the ancient Greeks were not as taught and quite different from the modern people. This modern image of ancient Greece is merely part of the albinos' falsification of history. To all those statues and sculptures, fake. Fake. The People of Lerna is an analysis of ancient skulls from the necropolis of the ancient town of Lerna in Greece. The skeletons of Lerna clearly show that throughout ancient times, Greeks were and remained Black. I repeat, the skeletons of Lerna clearly show that throughout ancient times, Greeks were and remained Black. Here are the real Greeks. Socrates, Black man. Selenius, Black man, a Black youth in Greece in 300 BC. Black people, they weren't white. Just like Beethoven was a Black man. Shakespeare, Black man. We bringing it out today. We bringing it out, fam. They let Socrates was white and all. Socrates, right here. Black man, look at that nose. That's a Black nose. That's a Black nose. Come on. Cyprus pre-600 BC. Black man. Greek satyr head. Black man. Look at the nose. Look at the nose. All those statues that you see of Greece and all this, those are fake. False. Not real. Real Romans. Black man. Look at that curly beard. He's a Black people. This is a sculpture here. Publius Licinius Valerianus Augustus, also known as Valerian the Elder, was a Roman emperor from 253 to 260. He was taken captive by Persian king Shapur I after the Battle of Edessa, becoming the only Roman empire who was captured as a prisoner of war, resulting in wide-ranging instability across the empire. Black man. They all Black. All these fake Roman Empire emperors of white, black. It says here, Julian the Apostate, Flavius Claudius Julianus Augustus, aka Julian the Philosopher, was Roman emperor from 361 to 363 and a noted philosopher and writer. This is him right here on the left. It's a black man, clearly. Look at that nose. It says here, cameo of Julian the Apostate. He attempted to prevent the drift of the empire towards Christianity. Because he knew Christianity was bullshit. Just a furthering of the white stuff. He tried to prevent it. In the middle, here we got Varius Avitus Bassianus, aka Elagabalus or Heliogabalus. God, these names. Was Roman emperor from 218 to 222. Look at that curly hair black man. See how they take off the noses? Look at that. They chopped off the nose. Chopped off the nose. The Martians are black. Kryptonians are black. Atlanteans are black. Everything black, baby. This is what the white people don't want you to know, fam. This right here. They don't want you to know none of this. But I'm bringing it out. Look at the one on the right. They even got rid of his nose. Roman Emperor Vitellius, 69 AD. Try to get rid of his nose, but you can't get rid of them black features. Look at that curly hair. Look at that head, that skull shape. You can't get around it. Thus, by the time the Dark Ages were over, almost 500 years had passed. Anyone who has ever researched family genealogy will tell you that oral history, as passed down from generation to generation, is very undependable. I agree. I agree. Without actual facts and being able to see them, it's all in vain. You don't know. You could be lying. After only a generation or two, it becomes so corrupted with exaggeration and myth that it becomes useless. That's facts. This then is what the Greeks were faced with. Without written documents, all memories of their early beginnings in Europe were in the form of oral history, passed down from generation to generation. Thus, Greeks recorded their previous history as a series of founding myths with godlike ancestors as the founders of their line. So they whited out the black people and changed it to gods and goddesses. That is how the Greeks came about. But we just showed that that is false. Over time, they came to explain everything that they didn't know or understand with these myths. However, it should be noted that unlike the pathetic racists of today, the ancient Greeks were always careful to give proper respect and credit, especially to the Egyptians and Persians. They understood who and what they were and how they got what they got. Illustrative of this is the myth of Danaus or Danios, sleeper. In Greek mythology, he was a twin brother of Aegyptus and son of Acaro and Belus, mythical king and queen of Egypt. The myth of Danaus is a foundation legend of Argos, one of the foremost Mycenaean cities of the Peloponnese. These names, boy, I tell you. Mycenae had been earlier built at about 1500 BC by Cretans in Egypt. Thus, this myth serves as a good example of how the early Greeks used myth to explain the current circumstance. The myth, the Egyptian prince Danaus had 50 daughters. The Danaides, 12 of whom were born to Polyxo and rest to Pieria and other women. And his twin brother, Aegyptus, had 50 sons. Aegyptus commanded that his sons marry the Dianides, but the Danaus elected to flee Egypt instead, and to that purpose, he built a ship, the first ship that ever was. In it, he fled to Argos, to which he was connected by his descent from Io, the maiden wooed by Zeus and turned into a heifer, and pursued by Hera until she found asylum in Egypt. Argos at the time was ruled by King Pelagus, the eponym of all black inhabitants who had lived in Greece since the beginning of time. Also called Gelenor, he who laughs. The Danaides asked Pelagus for protection when they arrived. The event is portrayed in the Supplicants by Aeschylus. Protection was granted after a vote by the Argives. Says that the writer Pausanias was a native of Lydia in Anatolia. He was a traveler and geographer of the 2nd century AD, who lived in the times of Hadrian, Antonius Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. He is famous for his description of Greece, a lengthy work that describes ancient Greece from first-hand observations and is a crucial link between classical literature and modern archaeology. As a Greek writing under the auspices of the Roman Empire, he found himself in an awkward cultural space between the glories of the Greek past. He was so keen to observe and describe the realities of a Greece beholden to Rome as a dominating imperial force. His work bears the marks of his attempt to navigate that space and establish an identity for Roman Greece. So when Pausanias visited Argos in the 2nd century AD, he related their version of the succession of Danaus to the throne, thusly judged by the Argives, the Argos citizens, who from the earliest times have loved freedom and self-government, and they limited to the utmost the authority of their kings. On coming to Argos, Danaus claimed the kingdom against Gelenor, the son of Thelanis. Many plausible arguments were brought forth by both parties, and those of Thelanis were considered as fair as those his opponent. So the people who were sitting in judgment put off, they say, the decision to the following day. At dawn, a wolf fell upon a herd of oxen that was pasturing before the wall and attacked and fought with the bull that was the leader of the herd. It occurred to the Argives that Gelenor was like the bull and Danaus like the wolf. For as the wolf would not live with them, so Danaus up to that time had not lived with them. Oh, what is this? Is this still part of that myth? Interesting. Says here you will note that the ancient Greeks attributed no part of the building of the Mycenaean civilization to themselves, but rather truthfully and correctly to Egyptians and Pelasgians. Please try to find a white textbook that does the same. You won't. You won't. How different whites are in modern times. Now they are so full of themselves that the lie comes easily and abashedly. Note the depiction of the Tartarus version of the myth by John William Waterhouse. In his painting, Danaides, to people like him, if they were great, they must have been white. If not, he will make them white. Fake picture here, fake painting. This is how they used, this is how they did it. They even attributed that the building of the Mycenaean civilization was built by the Egyptians and the Pelasgians or Pelasgians. So more whitewashing right here. Says here, to really appreciate the absurdity of that painting, please note this passage from Aeselius' play, The Suppliants. Says, yet if this may not be, we, the dark race, sun-smitten, underlined, we will speed with suppliant wands to Zeus, who rules below, with hospitable hands, who welcomes all the dead from the lands. Yea, by our own hands strangled we will go, spurned by Olympian gods unto the gods below. Even in this, says we, the dark race, sun-smitten. So obviously, dark race, white people, but they say dark here. Who lying? Who lying? This was in 1903, this painting. This play was written in 463 BC. How did you get we, the dark race sun-smitten, as this? Man, I tell you. The original GMOs. Correct, I've been. No pale hippie, you right. Genesis 26:4. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Black. Yes, sir. They whitewashed the gods and goddesses. Yep. We ran all these countries before any person dwell in these lands. These little funky heathens know they some damn thieves, liars, and it's time. It's the end, and we taking it back. Yes, sir, Ariel. Yes, we are. Let's read some more here. Says they click here for more on modern whites use their power over media. Well, this may be interesting. Oh man, I may have to do this one later at another time because this looks good. I may have to do. Oh man, this looks nice. This looks nice. The true Negro, huh? I don't want to get into that. That looks good. I may have to save that. I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save that one for another time. Well, we're gonna go back to this. It says in classical Greeks, at times, after the Greeks had become competent and were feeling full of themselves, they always had the Egyptians to put them in their place. Illustrative of this is an account from Herodotus, 143, of a visit by Hecatus to an Egyptian temple at Thebes. It recounts how the priests showed Hecatus a series of statues in the temple's inner sanctum, each one set up by the high priest of each generation. After mentioning that Hecatus traced his descent through 16 generations from a god, the Egyptians compared his genealogy to their own, as recorded by the statues. Since the generations of their high priest had numbered 345, all entirely mortal, they refused to believe his claim of descent from a mythological figure. This encounter with the antiquity of Egypt has been identified as a crucial influence on Hecataeus' skepticism. The mythologized past of the Greeks shrank into insignificant fancy next to the history of a civilization so ancient. So you see how they did this, fam? They were so full of themselves that they come from a god. Egyptian said, no. Egyptian said, nah, nigga, no. You come from us. Put them in their place. Says here in modern times, the reason that whites falsely claim that they originated in Europe is likely embarrassment. They did not discover definitive evidence of their Asian origins until the early 1900s. Even though the archaeological finds of the previous century should have given them a clue, of course, it gave them a clue. They just didn't want to accept it. All the ancient skeletons found in Europe were of black people. To date, absolutely no ancient white skeletons have ever been found in Europe pre-1200 BC, whereas skeletons of ancient Africans, not Neanderthals, not Cro-Magnons, but modern man Africans, Homo sapiens, are found all over the place in Europe. Some from as early as 45,000 BC. I don't give a fuck about that number there, but you get where I'm going. Bog mummies have also been found in Europe, the oldest being about 10,000 years old, quote unquote. But the oldest white bog mummies are only from the Iron Age. We say embarrassment because for the previous several centuries, whites have been building a tale of white superiority and black inferiority, and had even created the institution of racism, which we are still under today. How then were they to admit that just the opposite was true? Not only were they a people of humble beginnings, but derived from defective humans, albinos too. Whew. Whew. Boy, this thing is cutting them. And all they had and had achieved was derived from that which they had taken from the black man. We can drop the mic right there. We can drop the mic right there. Oh, it must be a shame for the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all of them to wake up and look in the morning and be like, and to look and to know that you are a defective human being. You came from a genetic mutation, which is why they're trying to grab everything as a last-ditch effort. Which is why they try to keep us on the bottom. But there's a change that is happening in the air, people. We are rising. They are falling. Every day I keep seeing shit. Every day I keep seeing their fall. Empty shells all over the world. Biblical storms. Volcanoes going off, creating tsunamis. That happened just a couple of days ago. It reached all the way to California and Japan from the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Ain't y'all great? That was just a warning shot, though. That was just a warning shot. These people have no idea that their entire world is coming to an end. That their entire existence, their privilege, their power, their quote-unquote superiority, their institution of white supremacy and racism, their draconian laws, their pollution of the earth, destruction of the seas, the air, wildlife, the trees in the forest, cutting them down so they can build up more buildings, so they can rake in more profit. How much is too much? Greedy dumb dogs who can never have enough. Most High put that in the scriptures. How much is too much? These dudes they have to over trillions of dollars. Hell, the Rothschilds are valued at 250 trillion. They can distribute that money in everybody and still have a ton left over. But the greed, the demonic behaviors, satanic hold that Hashatan has upon these white people is firm. But the Most High's grip is firmer. And he is slowly turning their entire kingdom upside down, family. We can witness it with our very eyes. Trains out there in California with packages all over getting robbed. They robbing the trains. Jesse James out there. Cowboy behavior out there. Stealing from the train. Your Amazon Prime package may not come. And that is all the Most High. That is what Yah is doing to their nation. He's setting the order back to where it was supposed to be. But because of our ignorance, because of our forefathers' disobedience, he had to give the land and the world over to the wicked in order to teach us a very humble lesson. And let me tell you, this lesson that I've learned since I've been in this truth has been a very humbling one. Before the truth, I thought I was the shit. I could do no wrong. I was so arrogant, so narcissistic in my behavior towards family members, towards my relationships, towards friends. I thought I likened myself to a god. Being in this truth, the Most High took that, all that pride, all that puffed upness, and just deflated me. I found out I ain't shit. I found out I ain't shit. I am nothing without the Most High. I am nothing. I am the dirt under his shoe. It is only he that fashions you into a vessel of honor. That is what he is capable of doing. It is not of our own accord. It is not of our own will. It is of his will. And when I found out that will in the truth, I had to humble down. I had to let go of the pride, let go of the ego. And I had to let go of that flesh. And I had to 100% follow Yahushua Mashiach in all his ways and his commandments and his laws and statutes. I had to do it. It was hard coming from a life of excess and greed and vanity. It was hard. But with the power of the Ruach HaKodesh that was stirred up inside me, this walk has become easy. There is no burden. It's only a burden if you are stubborn and you still got some of that puffed upness inside you. It is not a burden to eat healthy. It is not a burden to live righteously, to be cordial with people, to treat people with respect, to treat your own brother that look like you with respect and not hate him because he's black. That is what the Most High has taught me. And I'm sure all of you who are listening to this have a same or a similar story. And that is the power of Yah. Not through man or any ability of our own, but through the power of him. And without him, we would be lifeless, dead. This whole world would not exist. If he took away his power, his spirit, whoop, done, zero. Nothing here. But we continue to exist because the Most High loves us. Even though we hated him, he still loves us. Even though he had to give us a whooping for a while, he put us in time out. He's still coming back to save us, and he's doing it right now. It is a very humbling experience to be a part of this, to be a part of this revelation. The last book of the chapter, the last book, man, is unfolding. John, when he saw this was thousands of years ago. And we are living in the time that he saw in that vision. The time that Daniel was talking about. We are in that iron mixed with miry clay, where Yahushua Mashiach, the stone, is going to knock that statue right there at the toes. We are in this. We are so close. We are so close. Man, all praise Yah. All praise Yah. This has been probably the best journey I've ever been on. Best journey I've ever been on. But let's continue, because this is dropping facts. It says here, though Greeks and Romans were able to establish settlements in North Africa, they did not make serious inroads into Egypt and Middle East until Alexander the Great's conquest. The second beast. Was he the second beast? No, he's the third beast, right? He's the third beast. Yes, he was the third beast. Yes, he was the third. Yes, he was there. Okay. Conquest of the decadent and faltering Achaemenid Persian Empire. Yep, we had to get rid of that beast. With his victory, ordained by the Most High, their empire became his empire. You see how it goes? It never fell. It just changed hands. Just like the Most High said in Daniel. Whoo! 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 See? History. Bible is history. We're reading it right now. Alexander's victory set in motion over 2,000 years of European rule ordained by the Most High. Because of our fall, they don't mention that here, but we all know why. And white migration to those lands. broken only by the period of the Sasanian Persian Empire and the Arab conquests. Over those 2,000 plus years, the indigenous black populations of these lands became, in varying degrees, mulattoes. However, so this is Alexander the Great's empire here. We're looking at it right here. All that was his. He took it from Persia, obviously, because the Most High said, this is what you're going to get. All through Egypt, some of here, all through our lands here, Israel, all that, Phoenicia, all this was his, man. All throughout Asia. That was all his. Yes, Ariel, so much truth to this journey, and it has to open your eye and ear, and that's all the power to the Most High and his son, Yahushua Mashiach. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. However, modern white Europeans are not related to those early whites of Greece and Rome, like they like you to believe. Modern white Europeans are the descendants of the second albino invasion of Europe, that of the Germanics, Slavs, and Alans. As described by ancient Greek and Roman historians, these invading barbarians, that's right, they are barbarians, were fundamentally pure albinos. The Roman historian Cornelius Tacitus, from his book Germany, Book 1, describes them thusly. They all have fierce blue eyes, red hair, huge frames fit only for a sudden exertion. So these were big-ass men. They are less able to bear laborious work. Yep, they can't do hard work, hard labor. Heat and thirst they cannot in the least endure. Too cold and hunger their climate, and their soil inured to them. Can't grow no crops in the cold. They cannot endure the heat or thirst. I've seen that amongst most white people. Just being out in the sun for 5-10 minutes, boy, they pan like a dog. Herodotus, 400 BC, describes them thusly. They all have deep blue eyes and bright red hair. Most historians do not attribute their entry into Europe as an invasion or a normal migration. Rather, they were chased into Europe by marauding black Huns of Mongolia. And the Huns, we talked about them earlier, were a nomadic pastoral people from Eastern Asia. They invaded Europe in about 370 AD and created an enormous empire. This is the Hun dynasty, I believe, which reached as far as west as Germany. They were possibly the descendants of Xiongnu, who had been northern neighbors of China 300 years before. Note, the so-called white Huns had no direct connection with the European Huns of Attila. These white tribes deliberately called themselves Huns in order to frighten their enemy. More jacking off the black man. The Huns may have simulated the Great Migration, a contributing factor in the collapse of the Roman Empire. They formed a unified empire with its capital in what is now central Germany under Attila the Hun, who died in 453 AD. Their empire broke up the next year. The historian Priscus was a Greek-speaking Roman citizen who routinely referred to Huns, Germans, Goths, and people of other tribes as barbarians. He often met with Attila and described Attila's personal features: a short, square body with a large head, deep-seated eyes, swarthy, black complexion with little facial hair. He wore plain, not luxurious clothing. Don't they like to say Attila the Hun wasn't black? Funny stuff. Jordanes, the Roman historian, wrote a book on the history of the Goths called Getica. In this book, he described the Huns as they made their foes flee in horror because their swarthy, black-skinned aspect was fearful. You see how it is? Kind of makes that whole thing, what was that scripture? Dang, what was that scripture? It's like 5 of you put 1,000 a flight. Can somebody get that scripture? And it's like 10 of you will put 10,000 a flight, something like that. Look what they're doing. That black skin was fearful. And they had, if I may call it so, a sort of hideous lump, not a head, with pinholes rather than eyes. For they cut the cheeks of the males with a sword, so that before they receive the nourishment of milk, they must learn to endure wounds. Damn right I did, Ariel. Damn right. Damn right. It says here, hence they grow old, beardless, and their young men are without comeliness, because a face furrowed by the sword spoils by its scars the mature beauty of a beard. It is also said that another common custom of the Huns was to strap their children's noses flat from an early age in order to widen their faces, as to increase the terror their looks instilled upon their enemies. So these pictures are from a scroll depicting a hunting expedition of Kublai Khan, Yellow Mongolian, painted by the court artist Liu Guangdou. Shows that what are probably black Huns who are also Mongolians. Black people. We're everywhere. The Alans. The Alans were a group of Sarmatian tribes, also known over the course of their history by another group of related names, including the various variations of a C, as in Os, Bulgarian Uzi, Hungarian Jas, Russian Jasi, Georgian Ossi. It is this name that is the root of the modern accession. These are the migratory path of the Alans. The first names mentions that the historians link with the Alani appear at almost the same time in Greco-Roman geography and Chinese dynastic chronicles. Says here the geography of Strabo, who was born in Pontus of the Black Sea, but was also working with Persian sources to judge from the forms he gives to tribal names, mentions Iorsi that he links with Siracis and claims that Aspadines, king of the Orsi, could assemble 200,000 mounted archers in the mid-1st century BC. But the Upper Orsi, from which they had split as fugitives, could send many more, for they dominated the coastal region of the Caspian Sea, and consequently could import on camels the Indian and Babylonian merchandise, receiving it in their turn. So this is when Babylon was alive and well, receiving it in their turn from the Armenians and the Medes, and also owing to their wealth, could wear golden ornaments. Now the Orsi live along the Tanais, but the Siracis live along the Acardius, which flows from the Caucasus and empties into the lake Meotis. So this is where it comes from, the Caucasus Mountains. Yeah, most of it's just the history of these people and their migrations and things of that nature. Now the Germanics here, the migratory path of the Visigoths, a lot of people know who they are. They went down through Central Asia, down, it's not Asia. This is Spain over here. This is, what is this? Greece, Italy, or Rome, around there. Down here and up to there. Now the Visigoths, long-standing traders, with and mercenaries for the Roman Empire, who were settled in large numbers on the north bank of the Danube, came under aggressive attack from the Huns. Their leader came to an agreement with the emperor Valens that they would be given lands and allowed to settle on the Mediterranean side of the Danube. However, there was a famine. The emperor reneged on his promise, and the Goths attacked, killing the emperor at the Battle of Adrianople in 378, and decimating the Roman field army. The Goths were inside the empire to stay, soon becoming known as the Visigoths. Originally a tribe name, which became identified as Western Goths. In the Ostrogoths. Isn't this the two kingdoms? Or that the Pope down in that 10 horns, 7 horns, or whatever heck that was, the Visigoths and Ostrogoths, right? I know K. Judo talked about that. So these were the people here. That said, from then on, they alternately made peace with various Roman empires and generals and were double-crossed by them. Leviticus 26:5-8 says here, "And your threshing shall reach unto the vintage, And the vintage shall reach unto the sowing time, and ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in your land safely. All praises. And I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will rid evil beasts out of the land, neither shall the sword go through your land. All praises. One man of you shall chase 1,000, for the Lord your Elohim. It is that fighteth for you, as he hath promised you. All praises. So the Ostrogoths were a second wave of Goths from around the Crimean, who had been a subject part of Attila's kingdom, but rebelled in the earlier 450s. They settled within the Roman Empire on the Dalmatian coast and were sent by the Byzantine Emperor Zeno to take back Italy from Odoacer, who had deposed the last nominal Roman Empire of the West, Romulus Augustulus, in 476. Theodoric, the great Ostrogothic general, did so, inviting Odoacer to a banquet in 493 and killing him at the table. Theodoric ruled from Ravenna, where his mausoleum survives, together with several churches he had decorated with beautiful mosaics. There's here number 7, and ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. Yep, and 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight. And your enemy shall fall before you by the sword. All praises. So the Germanic countries, Great Britain, Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, France, Spain, Portugal, Scandinavians, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Icelandic, Faroe Islanders is not Sami. The Franks were a loose group of black tribes who inhabited the Upper Rhine, a number of whom were living within the bounds of the empire from the mid-4th century. They were further displaced in the early 5th century, partly by skirmishes with the Vandals. Oh, it was the Vandals. Sueves and Alans, as they made their way down the Rhine to escape from the Huns, and partly by the Huns themselves. See, the Huns is what scared all these people into these European countries, now European countries. They spread into northern Gaul, following and continuing to skirmish with other tribes. 2 successful leaders, Childeric and his son Clovis, established Frankish dominance more securely there, ruling most of France north of the Loire. Clovis's decision to convert to the Nicene version of Christianity in 496 and have been decisive for its reestablishment in Western Europe. As the Frankish kingdom continued to prosper, and the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes, the Angles came from Schleswig-Holstein, the Saxons from Lower Saxony, and the Jutes from Jutland. They arrived in southeast England from the 440s on, and gradually extended across to the north and west over the next 2 centuries. They may have been invited initially by the Britons to help protect them from raids of the Picts and Scots. These appear to have been black and albino people. See, always black. It was always black. And now we got the Slavs here. According to the Eastern homeland theory, prior to becoming known to the Roman world, Slavic-speaking tribes were part of the many multi-ethnic confederacies of Eurasia, such as the Sarmatian, Hun, and Gothic empires. The Slavs emerged from obscurity when the westward movement of Germans in the 5th and 6th centuries AD, thought to be in conjunction with the movement of peoples from Siberia and Eastern Europe, Huns in the later Avars and Bulgars, so these are Bulgarians, started the Great Migration of the Slavs, who settled the lands abandoned by Germanic tribes, fleeing the Huns and their allies. They moved westward into the country between the Oder and the Elbe-Sau line, southward into Bohemian, Moravia, much of the present-day Austria, the Pannonian Plain, and the Balkans, and northward along the upper Dnieper River. Perhaps some Slavs migrated with the movement of the Vandals to Iberia and North Africa. Around 6th century, Slavs appeared on the Byzantine borders in great numbers. The Byzantine records note that grass wouldn't regrow in places where the Slavs had marched through. So great were their numbers. After military movements, even the Peloponnese and Asia Minor, Turkey, were reported to have Slavic settlements. By the end of the 6th century AD, Slavs had settled into the Eastern Alps regions. Slavic people are classified geographically and linguistically into West Slavic including Czechs, Kashubians, Moravians, Poles, that's Poland, Silesians, Slavics, and Sorbs, East Slavic, including Belarusians, Russians, Rusins, and Ukrainians, and South Slavic, including Bosniaks, Bulgarian, Croats, or Croats, Macedonians, Montenegrins, Serbs, and Slovenes. Slavic countries are Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Greece, Hungary, Macedonia, Albania, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Bosnia, and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Georgia, Kosovo, Moldova, Montenegro, Romania, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So Italy was mixed Slavic and Germanic. Mixed most Slavic is Greece. Armenia was mixed Slavic and Turkish. Algeria mixed Berber and Germanic, and Tunisia was mixed. See, all these mixed. They're all mixed. And these are the Turkish peoples. So the last remaining whites in Asia, the Turks, before admixture with indigenous black Anatolians, they were originally albinos too, were chased out of Asia by the yellow Mongols. Little is known about the origins of the Turkish people, and much of their history, even up until the time of the Mongol conquests, in the 10th to 13th AD, is shrouded in obscurity. Chinese documents of the 6th century AD refer to the empire of the Tuoche as consistent of two parts, the North and Western Turks. The empire submitted to the nominal suzerainty of the Chinese Tang dynasty in the 7th century, but the Northern Turks regained their independence in 682 and retained it until 744 AD. When able to escape the domination of the Tang dynasty, these Northern Turkish groups fought each other for control of Mongolia from the 8th to the 11th century, when the Oghuz migrated westward into Persia and Afghanistan. In Persia, the family of Oghuz tribes, known as Seljuks, created an empire that by the late 11th century stretched from the Amu Darya south to the Persian Gulf and from the Indus River west to the Mediterranean Sea. Here's your Turkish peoples, the Gold Turks, the Seljuks, Khazars. Those are the people who are impersonating to be us. They can't be us here with this history. Khazars are part of the Turkish people. These are the same people that converted over to Judaism and then got into the land and stole it from us. They're Turkish. How can they be us? How can they be true Israelites? They're Turkish. Talking about they have inhabited the land for 3,000 years. Bullshit. Your true history is right here. More Turkish peoples, the Mughals, the Azerbaijani, the Bashkir, the Chuvash, the Kazakh, the Kyrgyz, the Tatar, the Uyghur, the Uzbek, and Sakha, the Hefletites, Turkish countries, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, which is where a lot of that, Kazakhstan, that's where they're building apparently the New World Order headquarters. Apparently they're building the city of the New World Order, the capital of the New World Order in Kazakhstan. And apparently in Kazakhstan, they were in the news with that revolt where they killed a bunch of officers and they beheaded one of them as well. And they set fire to one of their buildings out there. So I don't know what that's got to do with anything, but yeah. Getting some knowledge today, baby. Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Northern Cyprus, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Countries with large populations of ethnic Turks and Turkish culture. Egypt, Iran, Libya, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Bahrain. That's the Ottoman Empire, 1600 AD. These are the Turkish empires right there. That's what they dealt with. See, look at that. Up in there, they had Lebanon, The mass, see, they had Israel up in there too, in the Ottoman Empire. Classes in session. Just as modern Christian culture is far removed from ancient Hebrew culture, speak facts, it is now European culture. So too is modern Arab culture far removed from original Arab culture. It is now Turkish culture. All praises. They took all the old stuff and they put in their heathen stuff. They took away the Bible, our Bible in Israel, and they put in the Talmud. Turkish bullshit. During the time of the Turkish Ottoman Empire, 1299 to 1922, Islam was not known as an Arab religion. It was known as a Turkish religion. So now we know about Islam. The thawb, Arab robes, emblematic of Arab culture, is not Arab at all. The original Arabs, like the Egyptians, Berbers, Mesopotamians, Elamites, Persians, had black skin. They did not need the head-to-toe protection from the sun that the thawb affords. It is not known who invented the thawb, but it is known that even though the Turks once ruled from Baghdad, they hated to go there because of the hot climate and burning sunshine. Being that the original Turks were a very pale-skinned people who needed protection from the sun, it is likely they invented the thawb. So here's a modern man of Turkish ethnicity in the thawb on the left. Look at the ancient Arab, black. They didn't need that bullshit on his head. They didn't even wear shirts. Ancient Berber, black. They didn't need that bullshit on the head because it's hot as fuck outside. Ancient Egyptian, they didn't need all that. All these people that are in these countries, these white skin, they have literally just came in there, they conquered, and they instilled their religion. They instilled their culture, which is far removed from the original culture of that land. Same thing with our Hebrew culture. It has turned to Christianity, which is European culture, preaching white Jesus and white people as superior to the blacks, condoning slavery, chattel slavery, that is. They say that it was in their Christianity, that is what they taught us off on the slave ships when we came off. Saying this is your judgment from Yah. You got to serve us and obey us. So is what the heathen do when they come into a country. They take it and they turn it into their own abomination. Same thing as the make-believe Jews did. They came in and put their abomination Talmud, which has all kind of abominations throughout that book, and called that the Hebraic culture. Lies. I'm uncovering them all tonight. Ancient Hebrew. Look at them on the left. Black. Ancient Persian. Black. Ancient Sumerian. Black. Ancient Assyrian. Black. Former territories of the Turks. The very albino-ish Turkish prince of the Turkish Qajar dynasty of Iran. That ain't a true. That is an albino. Albino. So the Turkish Empire ruled a whole lot. A whole lot. All throughout Middle East, South Asia. They ruled a lot. These are the modern Turks now. There they go. In the invasions of the Roman Empire, here come the fourth beast. They invaded everywhere. The Franks, the Goths, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, all of them, they went everywhere, all throughout the land. Yes, sir. Black, black, black. Thus, when these millions of new albino Asians, that's what they are, albino Asians, invaded the Europe of black and mixed race people, it is, of course, over time, changed the appearance of all future Europeans, as attested to by the observations of Herodotus and Tacitus. Today's Europeans are just slightly different from the original second wave albinos into Europe, but still changing. Whereas before, they all had red hair and blue eyes. Today, red hair is the rarest hair color. Likewise, blue eyes are slowly being bred out by admixture with normal people. Since the turn of the century, people born with blue eyes in the United States have dramatically decreased, with only about 10% having blue eyes today, according to Mark Grant, an epidemiologist from Loyola University in Chicago. During the turn of the last century, the percentage of people with blue eyes stood at 57.4% for those born between 1899 through 1905, and 33.8% for those born between 1936 through 1951. According to Grant, in a study titled Cohort Effects in a Genetically Determined Trait, Eye Color Among Us Whites. This decrease in the occurrence of blue eyes is due to many factors, with the majority pointing to the increased in brown-eyed immigrants, mainly Hispanics and Asians, as well as heightened interracial relationships as the other determinant. Blue eyes next to green are the rarest eye color in the world, as people of counties in Asia and Africa possess brown eyes. They're being bred out, just like white folks are being bred out. This is why they try to get you to interbreed, black man, with these white people. Because they can't breed with themselves, they at least want to get some melanin in their offspring to keep the seed alive. They are going extinct. The reason why modern Europeans are still so close to the pure albinism of the original Germanic slaves or Slavs and Turks, as opposed to the admixture readily apparent in Asians, Middle Easterns, is that the population of blacks in Europe was not nearly as large as a black population in those other places. That was compounded by the flight of blacks from Europe when hostilities between blacks and the first incoming albinos began. See the Sea Peoples exodus circa 1100 BC. Keeping in mind that the entire Dravidian type albino population was driven out of Asia by the Mongols, this represented untold millions of people. Here again, note what Tacitus said concerning the Germans. All have fierce blue eyes, red hair, huge frames. Clearly then, just the Germans by themselves represented an overwhelming influx of people. However, a student of genetics might ask, since Europeans are about evenly divided between the Dravidian Y-DNA haplogroup R and the Y-DNA haplogroup I of the indigenous black Europeans, shouldn't Europeans be mulattoes, half black, half white? Once again, Tacitus provides an explanation. Germany, Book 1, on the Germans going into battle. They also carry with them into battle certain figures and images, taken from their sacred groves. And what most stimulates their courage is that their squadrons or battalions, instead of being formed by chance or by a fortuitous gathering, are composed of families and clans. Close by them, too, are those dearest to them, so that they hear the shrieks of women, the cries of infants. They are to every man the most sacred witnesses of this bravery. They are his most generous applauders. The soldier brings his wounds to mother and wife, who shrink not from counting or even demanding them, and who administer both food and tradition or encouragement to the combatants. Tradition says that armies already wavering and given away may have been rallied by women also, who with earnest entreaties and bosoms laid bare have vividly represented the horrors of captivity, which the Germans fear with such extreme dread on behalf of their women, that the strongest tie by which a state can be bound is being required to give among the number of hostages maidens of noble birth. They even believe that the sex has a certain sanctity and prescience, and they do not despise their counsels or make light of their ancestors or of their answers. Clearly, the indigenous black Europeans were killing German males and taking their females as spoils of war. Thus, the offspring gain the albity to produce some melanin in their skin, and the males gain a strengthening measure of genetic diversity. But most importantly, the German females were not taken as wives. They were simply despoiled and allowed to return to their tribes. Y DNA does not change. It is passed from father to son, regardless of whether the father is black or white. Thus, their mulatto male offspring would retain the Y DNA haplogroup I of their despoiler father. When those mulatto males bred with their tribal white females, their resultant male offspring would be quadroons, 1/4 black, but still with the Y DNA haplogroup I of their despoiler grandfather. When those quadroon males bred with their tribal white females, their resultant male offspring would be octoroons, 1/8 black, but still with the Y DNA haplogroup I of their despoiler great-grandfather, and so on. Of course, the opposite is also true on the maternal mtDNA side. A mulatto female breeding with an albino Y DNA haplogroup R male will produce quadroon male offspring with the Y DNA haplogroup R of their albino father. In the modern European skin colors, that's why they can vary from white to this weird tan-ish color. However, one can easily see the results of a more evenly balanced admixture, 1-to-1 mulatto, 1/4 quadroon, within the demographics of China, Turkey, the Middle East, and North Africa. Well, there you go. How much more? We got a whole ton more. Actually, I don't think it's not that more left, to be honest. Modern Chinese colors and phenotypes. That's why they kind of look mixed. The Asians do. They don't have that pure albino look like the white people do. So the closing thoughts here. Let us end with a rather sad observation. As we have seen, the albino people's history is a totally made-up contrivance, devoid of much truth at all. Likewise is their definition of themselves. They steadfastly refuse to believe, acknowledge that they are albinos. Yet every honest study that they have ever done for themselves clearly shows that they are indeed either albinos or the much more numerous and darker ones, those who are derived from albinos through admixture with Black Europeans. By way of an example, let us look at a 1997 study done by Luigi Luca Cavalli Sforza, Italian population geneticist born in Genoa, who has been a professor at Stanford University since 1970. Says one reasonable hypothesis is that the genetic distance between Asia and Africa is shorter than that between Africa and the other continents in Table 1, because both Africans and Asians contributed to the settlement of Europe, which began about 40,000 years ago. It says there, in this simplified model, the migrations populated Europe are estimated to have occurred at an early date, 30,000 years ago. But it is impossible to distinguish on the basis of these data. The overall contributions from Asia and Africa were estimated to be around 2/3 and 1/3 respectively. Clearly, the data told by Luigi that white Europeans like himself were hybrids, but he steadfastly refused to acknowledge what that meant. Instead, he tried to obfuscate by saying that modern Europeans were 2/3 Asian and 1/3 African. But what does that mean? All of these people are Asians. The first 3 are Chinese. The last one is a Dravidian Indian. Do you think Luigi meant these people when he said that modern Europeans were 2/3 Asian? Or do you think he meant these Central Asian albinos? These ones right here. Pale blonde to golden strawberry blonde, and most commonly blue eyes. Or these Uyghur people currently of Xinjiang, China, which is in extreme Western China, Central Asia. Oh, they're albinos too. Or these people. And there you go. And this is a gene haplogroup table for all Europeans, which basically shows where they really come from. All Black people. And there you go. There's your history. The most of it, everything else is just the differences and everything like that, but that's pretty much it. That is it. These are them. All albinos. All albinos. These pictures right here, all albinos. This is what they are. And with that, the rest is just scientific data. And that's it. There is nothing else to talk about. We have just learned the true history of the white man. All that proof, family, that we have just came up with in the last 2 weeks, I've concluded without a shadow of a doubt, as white people are just albinos. They are not what they say they are. They are not what they say they are at all. And with that, I think we can come to close on another edition of Behind the Veil. What a way to end. What a way to end. Great way to end. All praises to Yah for the knowledge. I learned some stuff, more stuff today. Insane. We saw some history. All those Roman Empire emperors, black. Insane how much they have washed away, whitewashed of the history of us black folk. Next week, I think we're going to go more. I'm going to go into the black Jews versus fake white Jews. And the addition of I'm going to go into that. A little bit of that. And probably that true Negro thing that I was looking at, that I came to. We're going to go and see the true Negroes. Oh, yes. We're going to see it. More history. I'm loving these history lessons, to be honest. It's great to look at news and everything, but history, just to see where you come from and all that, man, I love it. We're going to do more. So with that being said, family, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening out there. If you're going to sleep, may you have a restful slumber. And y'all willing, you guys wake up tomorrow for another day. Pray that you guys have a good day tomorrow as well. A blessed and highly favored day in Yahushua Mashiach's name. Continued knowledge through the Ruach HaKodesh and continued mercy from Elohim through his son, Yahushua Mashiach. To the 12 tribes worldwide. Shalom and blessings. I'm going to leave off with a nice track called Do Not Sleep. It's by my beloved Daoud. And y'all willing, I'll catch you guys next week on another edition of Behind the Veil. I've been your humble host tonight, Bezale'el ben Yahudah. Shalom, family. Godspeed.
Yeah. Back to work. Woo. I'm about to go to work. No sleep. Work. No sleep. Work. No sleep. Work. No sleep. See, that's the problem with the nation. They don't wanna work. That finessing got my present buried in the dirt. How much more you gotta see before you make a move? Oversleep and get you fired. Don't you hit the snooze? sticking to the code, all I know is order. Rolling with the script like a news reporter. If you knew the lingo, you would know the skills. Soul like a waiter, keep a lot of tilt. Serpent in the mist, do a lot of flips. Men in these dresses got the mental kill. Tower about to tilt, tumble down. We about to lead, that's why we jumping round. Never understood you about to come around. I ain't nothing like the clowns, I don't dumb it down. Boy, I'm something like a roofer, bring the gut around. For betting on the father, I'm a double down. Work, 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 no sleep. Work, 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 no sleep. Work, 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 no sleep. Work, 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 no sleep.